Hello all, and welcome to commentary from the 6th round. Just gonna get set up here. Here we are. Let's get a chat. It's a bit late to the party, but a lot of things that need to be taken care of. So we already have a decisive result on one of the top boards, and we're just gonna look at that game. That's the game between Hans Niemann and Jóhann Hjartarson, the local, one of the absolute top players of all time from Iceland, a veteran of the game, and he has the white pieces. I haven't seen this game, so I'm curious to see what happened. So Jóhann opened up with c4. The English opening e5, g3, c6. I believe this variation is called the keres. This is of course the Alpine Sicilian with colors reversed. Black is trying to go for a quick d5. Jóhann goes d4, e4, knight c3, d5. So now we have knight h3. White very often tries to put pressure on the pawn here. Maybe take. If black goes knight f6, we might get a pin and the knight here, putting pressure here. You can add more pressure with the queen. Sort of a little bit like the advanced French. So black knight h6, takes, queen b3, putting pressure on the pawn, knight f6. So now there's no pin because of h6, but still there's knight f4. Knight c6, and this puts pressure on this pawn, but hangs this one. So it's possible to take it, but Jóhann went with e3 here, which the computer doesn't like, prefers to take on d5 actually. Next up we have bishop to b4, pinning the knight, so d5 is defended. We have a trade on c3, g5, aggressive stuff, and castles. Jóhann plays h3, rook b8, and g4, interesting. So this maybe sets up some kind of pawn sacrifice, going h4, opening the h-file, maybe in conjunction with castling queenside. Who knows? b5 now by Niemann, queen d1 by Jóhann, b4, the bishop has to retreat, knight g3, knight g6, rook c1. Actually, it doesn't look too great for Jóhann at this point. Knight to h4. So this square is up for grabs. Jóhann defends, bishop b2, queen b6. And bishop a6, which computer doesn't like at all. You have queen a4. Bishop takes e2. King takes e2. And now, since we have control of all these squares, it's not going to be a dangerous check here. So, okay, the knight coming here is annoying, but it doesn't really change much. Queen to e6, and now it seems like the control of the c-file is more important. So rook c6 was kind of a threat here, when maybe we start actually doing damage on the 6th rank. So rook b6, rook c6 anyway. Queen d7, and Jóhann plays b3 here. Now knight h5 was supposed to be very good. Oh, look at that. Knight h5, hitting this guy. What a beautiful tactic. Takes rook g6, winning the queen. But Jóhann missed it. Not the most famous tactic that Jóhann has missed in this tournament. It's always very famous what happened in the 4th round, when he missed the chance to win by promoting to a bishop. Promoting to a bishop was actually the best move, which is one of the rarest occurrences in chess, and Jóhann was very, very upset, not about missing it, but because it's so rare that you get a chance to have this opportunity. So b3, he could have won. Takes, queen d8, and bishop takes b4. And Niemann simply resigned because he's losing material. So if rook e8, now we can just take on f6, and this hangs. So actually this is completely lost for black. And very strange how, this escalated. And even with Johan missing such an important tactic as knight h5, he's still able to win the game. So a nice comeback. I think black was doing well in this game, but then somehow things just went completely wrong. But yeah, I guess that's life. So we didn't really look at the first board. Let's have a look at our top board here, which is over here. And we have Mats Andersen playing against the surprising leader Lukas Jurmala. Jurmala has actually the white pieces, of course. He was defending with black yesterday. Mats Andersen with black. Then we have the Queen's Gambit accepted. Obviously a very solid opening for black. And Jurmala is going for this solid line with b3. And the bishop goes back to e2. We have a queen trade, knight a5. So white playing for a very slight edge. And at this moment, yeah, he has a knight against the bishop. But I'm guessing this should be hovering somewhere around equal. Probably even better for black, actually. Yeah, at the moment, this knight, it's a little bit stranded. It doesn't have a lot of squares. So takes, and bishop back to e7. I guess otherwise we could play rook d8 check and then get the knight back and be okay. So bishop e7 stops that. And now black is thinking about a move such as rook c2. And still this knight doesn't have squares. This is okay, he could go to d6 actually, but no, then I guess rook d8, so doesn't really have squares. I mean, if it goes back, no prospects there. So probably Jurmala is struggling a little bit in this one. We have another quote-unquote camera game, and that is Max Warmerdam against Simon Williams. Now Simon had the black pieces yesterday as well, and won in a very nice style. He had a dodge defense and ended up going for a typical Ginger GM attack, as we see the legend Oleg Romanishin checking out Simon's game. This one was also a dodge, d4 e6, d4 f5. Sorry, d4 e6, c4 f5. So Simon repeating more or less what he did yesterday with a stone wall. Seems to suit his style. Bishop e2, b5 and c5. So white is grabbing some space. Simon trying to set up, I guess, for an attack again on the king side. We also have this square for the knight, which could be important. So Simon takes with the c pawn and bishop c6. Similar to yesterday, maybe planting the bishop on d5, and then maybe slowly but slowly setting up some kind of a push here on the king side. We have to move this knight away as well. That's a long way away, but wouldn't surprise me if Simon goes for something like this eventually. And Kevin Winter is predicting a future chessable course on the Stonewall. Well, Simon, who knows? Okay, let's have a look at some other games on the top boards. So Jóhann Hjartarson isn't the only Icelandic player on the top boards. We have Héðinn Stengursson. He has the black pieces here against Gukesh. And this seems to be pretty neutral. Let's really fast go over the opening moves. Some kind of Tarrasch. Well, actually, we transposed basically more or less to a Queen's Gambit accepted. And black looks reasonably solid here. If he avoids mate in 1, which he does. Yeah, and it's important that black is able to neutralize and get the bishop pair right back here with 94. We have to go 96 here, ET. And a nice tactic, queen f4. Without that, black is basically lost. But now he escapes and d5 falls. So black must be absolutely fine here. And one might even prefer the knight here, but I guess this is going to be a draw, maybe even relatively quickly. Now on board 4 we have a battle of young players, Pragnananda and Abhimanyu Mishra. And we have a material imbalance. Let's see what happened. Pragga has a queen and minor pieces for Mishra. Knight must retreat, knight h5. Let's go back a few moves. What's going on here? So knight takes c4 might just be a very bad move. We're threatening knight b5. And how do we solve it? This knight can also hang in a number of lines. So it looks like black might have some tactical problems, and he went for sacrificing the queen here. That's probably a bit too much. So basically white is up 1 point of material. But black is still solid. Okay, I mean Pragga needs to do a lot of work here. Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, Niemann got a he got a good position. Maybe a slight problems in the opening, but he solved it very well. But it was strange how things fell apart there. Even with Johan missing a nice tactic. So okay, we had to look at Max, Thomas Biertsen and Alexander Fier. They had a rather quick draw. Let's just have a look at what happened there. Yeah, I think they just agreed to a draw after some uneventful moves. On board 7 we have Adiban against Harry Grieve. We haven't seen him much on the top board, so looks like we have another relatively equal looking position. I mean white has the better pawn structure, but it looks difficult to improve here and actually attack something. So Harry seems to be doing quite well here. On board 8 we have Julian Song against Abhijit Gupta. And Song is up the exchange here. Let's see what happened in this one. We had a Grunfeld. Obviously a very solid line for white. He plays rook c1 to protect the pawn, so that he's able to play pawn to d5. And Gupta campbells a pawn here. I think we've seen similar, and this might even be Yeah, there are still 9 games in this position. Giri and Nepomniachtchi have played 2 games in this. Nepomniachtchi has played this 3 times with black. Queen b6, still known. Bishop b5 has been played twice. By Vitit, yeah, both times by Vitit. So we're following Vitit against Nepomniachtchi from 2020. Let's see the first new move of the game. Not yet. Not yet. Now we're doing Vitit against Lagrave. Rook d2, cb, rook b2, rook c8, rook c7. That game was drawn. So now we have rook a7, which is the new move here. No, castles actually. Rook a7 was played in Vitit. That game was drawn, but white castles here. And the assessment is still 0.0, obviously. But black is up a piece. But now we're winning the exchange, right? Rook b6 and then rook c8 check, I guess. I thought he would play here and just queen, but then okay, we have 2 pawns as compensation, so he went for this one instead. Threatening mate, bishop d4, blocking the file, and importantly we have back rank mate, a very complicated game. Yeah, I have as a database tab on Lichess. So e5, rook d3, Antiban plays king g8 here. Okay, and then he opts for rook takes a2 is actually still fine according to the computer. No, it's at a very low depth though, so hard to say. But yeah, he goes for rook c2, giving up the exchange but getting the pawn. So now black is banking on having counterplay with these pawns. a4, g5, a3. Yeah, if he plays b3, I mean, white could, worst case scenario, go for the rook endgame, down a pawn. Mr. President, how are you?
Very great, very great.
Very great, good, good, good. Because Johan already won against Niemann.
Yeah,
You heard.
27 moves.
Yes. Very good. He missed an easy tactic, but still won.
Yeah, okay.
It was very, very, very nice.
Very nice.
Let's see if the president of the Icelandic Chess Federation can find the winning tactic. Gunnar, how's your tactics? So white to move. He played b3, which was okay, but this move.
Okay.
And if you take
Rook e6.
rook g6, winning the queen.
Okay.
But he missed that, but he still won. Pretty good.
Very good.
I have a very, very important conversation with the president. We'll be right back. Okay. So we're back. Let's have a look at some more games. On board 9. Again, people seem to don't like their queens. Matthew Cornett has the same material advantage that Braga had. Queen for a rook and a minor piece. Maybe let's see what happened. What opening was this? What's this? Hilmir with black here. Hilmir is always playing really messy stuff. Grabs a bunch of pawns. Rook c2. Where does the queen go? b4, knight b5. Rook takes c3, regaining the piece. This is really messy. Bishop e1. Yeah, black probably goes wrong here. E takes f4, e4, bishop e1. Now the pin is very annoying here. Rook d5, rook g3. Wow, yeah, taking advantage of the pin and giving up the queen. Okay, so black went for that. I guess, yeah, he loses another an important pawn here, so that's probably not good. Interesting stuff nonetheless, but I think white must be doing better here. We didn't really look at the opening in Adiban's game. Somebody said that Adiban played a weird opening. Okay, I understand. Very often when you play this, you're going for some kind of gambit here with e4, but in fact after knight c6, if he plays something like e4, maybe black just goes e5, and we have a weird kind of a reversed Vienna or a king's gambit. I don't know, but he plays d4, and I guess the idea is to play d5, and if black goes d5 himself, he has a bad version of the stonewall with a knight on c6. Black plays e6, c4. So, I mean, white loses the tempo, but he's arguing maybe that the knight doesn't stand too well here on c6. That's probably the main argument here for white. And we get this kind of stonewall setup, but without pawn on c6. And black going for an early h5, h4. And there's some tactics, which may or may not have been called for. I mean, maybe black can just play solidly, but this is very tempting. But of course Adiban has this counter here. And queen g4. This is very nasty. Very nasty. Reminds me of, it's kind of a Boden's mate. If we had something on d7, let's say rook d1, then we have Boden's mate here on g6. So that's probably the reason why the knight can't retreat, either rook d1 first or check and then rook d1. So Adiban wins the piece back, king f7, and he takes on d4. And now with e4 hanging, yeah, we get this position we saw, where white has the better structure, but maybe difficult to attack something. So, relatively weird game. On board 10, yeah, kind of just scanning for interesting games. Hjörvar against Justin Sarkar. Hjörvar is up the exchange, but black is getting it back. But the bad news for black is he will be down pawns or pawns. Queen e2, knight takes, rook takes. And I don't really see much compensation here for Justin. Christopher Yu hasn't quite made the splash some people were expecting in this tournament, at least so far. But he has certainly the better position here against Dmitry Minko. Very nice bishop on d5. Black does have the bishop here, but white sort of controls the only open file. And black's pieces are a little bit clumsy. The rooks are not corrected. The pawn structure is worse, and we might at some stage land the knight here. Looks like Brendan Clark about to win soon. Thanks for the heads up. He's playing against Sibel, my friend. And what's going on here? Looks like it was some kind of, just knight or Sicilian. Sibel likes to play. He plays very principled chess. Brandon goes for this h5 line in the knight off. Bishop d3, h4. Knight takes d5, bishop f5, and now black takes on e3. Black is up a pawn at the moment. Sibel trying to open lines here on the king side, and black trying to keep control. So now the pawns are equal, but white does have double pawns on the h file. We don't have many more moves. e4, bishop c4 check, and king h8. So what's the problem here for white? Maybe the problem is we're just starting to push the pawns. We're threatening to play f4. We would have to defend the queen, and we just trade queens, and then take on h4 or something, or start pushing the pawns. Just looks like the pawns are too strong here, and it's actually hard for white to find a move. I'd say, I mean, okay, let's say, okay, just to make a move, queen e2. We can play knight f4. We'll do a number of things, and actually, it's not easy to find a square. You have to keep an eye on this one. And for instance here, well, I forgot about the rook. But I wanted to demonstrate that in some lines we can just take here because of the pin. So yeah, this looks actually like problems that white just can't solve. So Brandon Clark might be getting a quick win here. Oh, Brandon was your coach for a while. But yeah, I agree, white is in big trouble. Thanks for the suggestion. What side events and excursion has there been so far for us amateurs that is an attraction to an open in a foreign country? What was Atipan result yesterday? Atipan probably drew yesterday. I can't remember, honestly. You can always find the results on chess results, results, plural. Casa Corley, he's playing this underrated 1900 guy who's been doing really well in this tournament. Casa with white, and seems to be up a safe extra pawn here. So Kasakoli getting perhaps an important win here to move up the standings. Yeah, the side event so far, we had the Reykjavik Blitz yesterday. We had 66 players participating, which is a very good number out of 240 participants, about 25% of them. Well, as well as some other, local Icelandic players that weren't playing in the main tournament. But 66 is pretty much around standard, like 40 to 60 has been, I think, the number for us in this Blitz tournament. very casual blitz tournament. It's not rated. We do have prizes, but you know, we're close to the bar, so people are allowed to bring drinks while playing, so that's why we don't rate the tournament. And on Friday we had the pub quiz. Again, I think we had record numbers, 40-50 people. It was a lot of fun. 30 questions, and the winning team had 27.5 answers correct, which is very impressive. Because while there are some easy questions, there are certainly a lot of difficult questions. Then on Monday we have the Golden Circle, where people see some attractions in the south of Iceland, one of the most famous waterfalls. They see the geysers, and then they go to see the Bobby Fischer Center and Bobby Fischer's grave. Results are showing out. Yeah. Okay, now I remember. Yeah. He agreed to a draw yesterday. It was very, very perplexing. When I saw it first, I thought it was a mistake that they placed their kings in the wrong way, and I even went as far to say that it was impossible that they didn't, and Adiban won. But then I got confirmation. His opponent actually offered the draw in a lost position, according to the engine. But apparently it wasn't clear enough for even such a strong player as Adiban that he was winning. So he agreed to a draw. It was very surprising, but that's what happened. So it was draw indeed. Let's see. Okay. Just getting some messages about a few missing games in the PGN, which we'll have to fix later. Yeah, it was surprising. I can't believe I forgot about this Adiban business. Okay, Ronak Sadvani. Okay, he's getting paired way down here, but he managed to win a game. I was hearing a lot of noise about Sadvani before the tournament, but he has failed to impress so far. Here he has the black pieces, and we have a King's Indian. Takes with a knight takes d3. Now there's pressure on e4, which could be annoying. h5, intending at some stage maybe h4. More pressure here. Rook d7, bishop comes back, and now black might go for some kind of break with c5. Yeah, he does. And now black has the bishop here. The knights don't really have outpost. Okay, there's an outpost on d5, but at the moment you can't really use it. We cannot take on f4 yet, so rook d to e7. So now f4 hangs, e4 hangs. Takes on e4. And now, yeah, if we can keep the bishop, this diagonal is too strong. The knights are lacking stuff here. And goes for the fancy finish. Queen takes d1. And we had similar. It's not very unsimilar to what Niemann did. Bishop to d4. We'd have to take with this rook, and then I think it's unstoppable that this rook goes back. For instance, check, rook back. This is also rare that you have a, what's it called? You block mate with a discovery and give mate yourself. I mean, block a check with a discovery and give mate yourself, but certainly possible. Actually, in the game, Stefan allowed the mate, he took on e8 and allowed this mate. Okay, Oleg Romanishyn won his game rather quickly. We saw him checking out Simon's game. Romanishyn with white here against Simon Ritska. And yeah, Romanishyn likes to play this. I played against him in Nighthorse Memorial in 2015, and he played exactly the same stuff. What are his current standings? Yeah, Gavin Jones has really good stuff on the King's Indian. He's been playing it for almost all of his career. So the standings at the moment, Lukas Jarmula is leading with 4.5, and then we have a lot of guys on 4 points. But it looks like Jarmula might be struggling in today's round. We'll have to come back to that game eventually. But basically, it's very, very tight at the top. I mean, there's half a point between Jarmula and a bunch of guys. So a lot of things can still happen and will happen. So here, bishop e3. Could be some problems on the long diagonal. Knight d5, bishop c5. He takes on f7. Knight takes f7. King takes f7 and e5. So wins the piece back, but now we're also introducing problems on the long diagonal. So it takes, and this is too much. It's just gonna chop on e6. We can't even take back. So an easy win for Oleg. And I think the young Icelandic player Bendit Bream. Now Idani Puya took a bye, which was very surprising. Yeah, Adiban had 7 minutes, which seems like enough, so it was very surprising what he did. So Bendit Bream is playing against Julian Martin, 2385. We have a Catalan with 92. And b5. So this is very similar to a different line. Well, if you go for the main line, which is d5, bishop d2, something like this, knight f3, castles, d takes c4, queen c2. The topical line is b5, which was played in Carlsen against Nepomniachtchi. And after a4, b4 is the move. And that's a known blunder here if you go c6, which a lot of people played against me online because people were trying to copy what Nepomniachtchi did, but didn't really remember the details. Now we can take and play knight g5. And because of the mate threat, we can't interpose with the knight on d5. So bad stuff will happen here on the long diagonal. And this is very similar to what happened in the game. So g3, bishop b4, we have a similar situation b5, and Bendit played a4. And we had this move c6. And now black has to play something like bishop b7, because now he's in trouble. Knight g5. Same thing, this hangs, so black has to give up the exchange, plays h6. h4 actually first, which is a nice wrinkle because we can't really take here because takes, and problems on h7. g6, and knight takes f7 before taking on a8. So now we're trying to take on g6. So black even doesn't get time for contemplating. This must be completely winning for white. Just a clear exchange up. And also he can just go bishop d2, get the center. First he protects the pawn on d4, knight b7, bishop f4, bishop e5, Czechoslovakia. Yeah, looks super good for white. Oh, he's going for some tactics. I would trade the bishops because the only thing I would worry about is problems on the long diagonal. But going for tactics, a8 hangs and b4 hangs. You can't protect both. Maybe just queen e7 check and then take on e6. But it goes queen e1. Yeah, f2 was hanging. But okay, I'm still winning, but it feels like Benedict could have selected an easier way to do this. I didn't like leaving the bishop. He could have just traded that. But okay. Okay, maybe, and actually Benedict's brother, he's playing against Erik Rosen. And apparently doing great. Again, we have a queen against a rook and a minor piece, which we've seen for the third time today. But the difference here is that there's a huge threat on d8. Let's see very quickly what happened here. So we have an equal looking position. Erik plays b5, the pawn was hanging maybe now on b6. Since the queen got out of the way, first the queen was in the way. So here b5, bishop b6, rook takes c1. But now there are problems. Queen takes e1 and rook c8. Yeah, if you go rook d7. Can I take on d6 and queen here? It's hard to, yeah, we probably can't save this one. We can give a check here. I just king h2 and then we pick up this guy and we have two minor pieces for the rook. So rook c8 looks safe, but Stefan saw the tactic here. I told you earlier in the tournament that Stefan is underrated. And now rook takes. Huge threat now. And I actually don't know how we deal with it without losing this bishop. Probably we don't. And now this is just white having super fun here with all the pieces. There's literally no way for white to lose this. And he can just, go about picking off pawns. There will always be some counterplay with the queen, but white should be able to win this. So okay, a bit of a shock. And let's see if Erik Rosen can find some way to defend here. We should have Anna crowning as well. Having a look at the streamers. She won yesterday, so she should be on a demonstration board. La. Can't find her. And I don't have the current pairings. Okay, yeah, I think it's time anyway to look at, if somebody finds the board of anagramming from 1 to 57, maybe you can tell me if you're interested. Otherwise, we need to check out the top boards again. So let's go to board number 1, where Lukas Jarmula is still struggling with his knight here on b7. Actually struggling heavily. Knight doesn't have any squares. And we have a very nice domination of the bishop over the knight. And there's no way back at the moment. Knight a5, we just play rook a6. Winning it. So white needs to be extremely careful here. It might actually be, the position might be beyond repair if he can't find a way to somehow extricate Is that a word?
Extract? Extract occasion station?
I can't find a way to get the knight out of there. Yeah, looks really difficult for Jarmula. Maybe we can check in with Simon again as well. And there, well, it looks like people are not liking their queens today. Simon has 2 rooks for the queen. I'm a little bit worried about doubled passed pawns. I'm worried about this. We do have a trump, but it doesn't seem like it's the strongest trump in the world. So let's see what happened in this one. So Max is going for maximum power on the A file. And he must be liking, his dark square control. And with all the pawn and light squares, this looks like a typically better position for white, just because of the Capablanca rule. The black bishop, lacks scope, and the black pawns could become targets, although at the moment everything is covered. Rook d7, rook a5. So, okay. If white only needed to draw, he could offer one now, because he has complete domination. I mean, there's literally almost not a pawn break in sight for black. But he wants more. And he goes for it. So here's what happened. Simon took on d4 and takes. So what's going on here? If you take on e6, king h8, maybe we're worried about this pawn. If Simon can get organized, maybe chop off one of these pawns, then it's always going to be difficult to promote with only one pawn against 2 rooks. Knight to Poa won a nice game, says Kevin. He had a very interesting game in round 1, where he had actually 2 opportunities to turn the tables. I think it was against Sadvani, yeah. He had 2 opportunities to get the upset in round 1. We can have a quick look. At that one. So he won against Tinna, who is on the Icelandic women's national team. Poa played the London. Bishop g3, bishop d3. I prefer to wait with the bishop, because in this line, if I go knight f3, knight c6, I go bishop e5, which is, I think, has more venom. And if black is playing in this way, if people know what they're doing, they play queen c7 and then knight b to d7 before castling. And that's one of the downsides of this move order, I think, for white. We saw Adeban do that for black earlier in the tournament. And c4 generally is not good for black. You're releasing the tension, because now e4 becomes quite desirable for white at some stage. Although he doesn't go for it this time around. He goes for a more typical kind of London attack. And this is what can happen in London, where black just sets up the pieces slightly passively and doesn't really know what to do with them. Like bishop f8 and then back to e7 suggests to me that black was quite confused. And here black runs into a typical tactic. Bishop takes h7. Since this is undefended, taking on h7 is pretty devastating after we come in like this. And okay, if we don't find any way to continue the attack, we can at least take here and then continue attacking. So Tinna went with king f8, but f takes e5. Now we can castle and f7 will be hanging. Rook e7, introduce the knight into the attack. Yeah, now this pin is very annoying. Rook takes f7 and rook f1 is coming. Pretty standard stuff. You know, once you play these attacks, you know, they tend to be very similar, and now it's just game over. Yeah, it was relatively smooth by white. It's kind of the game you hope for when you're playing in London. Okay, so Anna's on board 21. So perhaps I wasn't looking high enough. She's playing against Thruster. I played Thruster so many times. He's probably the grandmaster that I have the most wins against. I think I have at least 3 wins. But I also have a lot of losses. I think we played each other like 12, 15 times. But Anna seems to be doing well. If she can deal with his pawn on c6. So she played f5. Do we have this pawn under lock and key? That is the question. Was a Sicilian here? Yeah, maybe we can quickly run through the game. Yeah, very quiet. We transpose to a c3, Alpine Sicilian type of position. And here, okay, white has the bishop pair. I quite like white now. And I've had one game where Thruster completely dominated me by just getting the bishop pair and then playing very solidly. I mean, bishop pair and a pawn majority on the queen side actually looks quite good for white here. And here he starts pushing. At a5, c6, and now Anna took on e3. Yeah, probably Thruster missed a golden opportunity here. Can I get to IM? I have 2 IM norms. I need 1 more norm, but more importantly, I need my rating to be 2400. And I was painfully close. I had 2398.2. And then I lost the next 2 games. That was very painful. I was in the 4 NCL. I was completely sick. Yeah, I want to try. You know, the last like 10 years I haven't played much, but I'm starting to play a little bit more. Like European Club Cup, and I want to, you know, go to some open tournaments and round robins. Do some chess tourism and try to finish the job. But it looks like perhaps Thruster could have played something like this. And then the pawns are simply too strong. This looks winning. But instead, after c6 first, Anna took, and now f5, very strong move. Actually the best move. And makes important luft, for the king. We buy time by attacking the bishop, and now we can, let's say we go bishop f3 or something. Now we can take here. And maybe actually, because the king is coming, we have the pawn under control. So looks like Anna might save the day. What happens if, yeah, let's bring the king, something like rook c5. Knight should be able to find its way back. Maybe in some cases we might think about something like this and then simplify. Okay, so looks like Anna might get a good result here. And let's go back to board 2, which was rather quiet. And looks like this will just we're heading for a draw. White will take here, black will push the pawn. White will have to stop it, and then we'll just push and we'll trade pawns. 3 versus 3. So solid draw here by Stinkerson with black against Gukesh. Meanwhile, Pragnananda had the advantage of a queen against the rook and a minor piece. Black is still putting up a good fight here. He does have the bishop pair. So probably a lot of technical work yet left in this one. But Praka is the favorite for sure. A small check in here with Simon. We haven't had moves for a while. Adiban against Harry Grieve. Harry seems to be doing quite well. Yeah, I do coach. And what makes a good coach? It's a good question. It's a very good question, which I'm not sure I have the answer to right now, because it's probably going to be a long answer. No, but I think most importantly is to understand, the needs of the student, because people have different rating, different goals. So it all depends. It makes no sense for a relatively new player, to be, feet in preparation in like the Catalan or something. And yeah, you just have to figure out, what each student needs and find some weaknesses to pluck. Usually, for lower rated players, if you work with them for a while, you find some holes that need to be plugged. Need to send one message here. There's a lot of things to think about. A lot of things to think about when you're organizing a tournament. Yeah, we should have had Fiona here. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it this time around. Would have made for better commentary, to be honest. But okay. So let's see Julian again. He was the exchange up against Abhijit Gupta, which he has transferred to a rook endgame, a pawn up. How promising is the rook endgame? I'm not sure, but his king is very well positioned to secure or help the pawn to promote. So the question is, can black get counterplay in time? At the moment, doesn't look like it. Oh, we have seven pieces, so we can actually look at the table base. And according to the table base, this is losing. And the blue, if I just turn off everything. So this is me going through, the blue arrow is me just going through the table base and the suggested moves. And their evaluation. And the evaluation for all of these is losing. So that would be a very strong result for Julian Song. Thank you, Kevin. So Matthew Cornett against Hilmir, that was also a queen against a rook and the minor piece. And Hilmir looks much more organized here than he did before. I think he gained one pawn as well. Let's see, where's Queen A1? Queen A1? No, no, it's 3 pawns. 3 pawns each. Knight F5, queen there, rook C5. Hilmir is very good in these sort of what's the word, like irrational positions with a lot of dynamic play, unusual material imbalance, stuff like that. Like already in the opening, like this stuff. He's played g5, he's grabbed some pawns, white has the initiative. It's very good in this type of stuff. But sometimes he tries to go for it too much. Just needs to find the balance, and then he should improve tremendously. Yeah, I think he's trying to get his final IM norm, if I'm not mistaken. So 96, looks like he won a pawn here at some stage. Yeah, because rook f1 doesn't protect the pawn, because we can just take. Knight takes f4. So now things have changed, because now we have equal material. Rook, minor piece, and the pawn. Pass pawn at that, so not probably, he's doing much better than earlier. So this might be tough. We're Dishman against Massey, haven't looked at that one at all. Massey with a better minor piece, well placed bishop, both for defensive purposes, but also importantly could be an attacking piece. Well, this bishop is a little bit empty, so black will look to maybe try and introduce the knight at some point into the attack. But white is still solid. He's still keeping, a little bit of control. Yes, Kevin, I know, I agree. We wanted to have them both, but Simon wanted to play. He was obviously welcome in both capacities. Brandon Clark had a very promising position earlier, and that hasn't changed at all. He's now up a pawn. But Siribet is putting up a fight. Although, just for being objective, there are 3 connected pass pawns. The base of the pawn chain is protected, so there shouldn't be any huge problems for black to convert here. And a move like bishop g3 actually might be very strong in the current position, because the queen is just overloaded. It has to protect this, and bishop g3 just interrupts that flow, so bishop g3 maybe ends the game. Tanya is playing here on board 19. We haven't had a chance to look at her games much. It looks like here after rook b8 she can just finish up with rook takes f8. And again another overloaded piece. Queen takes d7 is also possible. Let's see, was it... White is surely better here, but looks like things escalated quite quickly. Check, double, trouble. Yeah. Another white to move and black to resign. And 2 ways to do it, here or here. You can see Brandon Clark being a 2,600 GM in the near future. How old is Brandon? Young Brandon Clark. Looked like he was like in his early 20s or something. Looks like Benedict Bream messed up. Had a completely winning position earlier, but got too fancy, and now the win might be difficult. King is stuck though. Yeah, it might be tough to win. Unless we can sook black somehow, sook strong. Let's say we bring the king somewhere. Because the king is stuck. Although he can play rook g6. Sorry, bishop d6, king g5. In some cases. Otherwise maybe it would be sook strong. But let's see, king here. King here, king here. King g5, king d4 maybe. King f5. Rook f8, and then we get to e5. Bishop here, and then we can check again. So this is the kind of position I was looking for. Now we have Sukswang. We can either play the king or the rook to g7. Let's just go here. And then we go in this pawn. And now it's probably winning. Because we should be able to use Sukswang again. Maybe just bring the king here and win the pawn. Okay, so maybe this is just winning if he finds the correct way here. Just bring the king. Okay, that would be super cool because he deserves to win this game. He deserves to win this game. Somebody's obsessed with video footage. Let's go to board 1 again. See what's going. Oh, what? Something happened there. Something happened there. Okay. We lost one of the. Okay, we lost the feet, unfortunately. But let's still go to board number 1. Unsurprisingly, Gukesh has drawn with Héðinn. Jarmula still not able to. We had this position, bishop e4. Still not able to get the knight out. But he was able to trade rooks. But still having big problems with the knight. See, e5 here, not allowing the knight to get out here. So even though like positionally this looks bad, you know, pawns on dark squares, weakness here, white doesn't have any way to take advantage of it. It's more important that the knight is in big trouble. So now actually the threat is here, and just win the knight. So white played b4 to at least save the knight, but then he's going to lose the pawn. So I guess, yeah, this is happened, takes, and white is just trying to hold on, but he's not going to be able to. We're going to be able to push, bring the king, threaten to come here, and then white probably has to go for e4, and then we should be able to, well, maybe even play f5, and because we can't really allow the king to enter. And if not, then just bishop c3, b4, bring the king. Looks completely lost, so Jarmula's run coming to an end, perhaps. In England, top players are aging, so we need a new breed. Hence, Brendan Clark and... Okay, Cerise Royal, haven't heard about. How is Iceland doing for young talent? We have Vignir Vatnar Stefansson, who is, I think he's 19 now. He's about to become a GM. He's ambitious, but for all younger guys, we have a bit of a gap between Vignir and the next in line. But we have, you know, some decent young players coming up. That hopefully can make similar, you know, a similar search. Okay, let's have a look at more stuff. Simon is having a pawn race here, and with which is unfortunately losing after takes, queen b6 and queen back. Because the rook has to take care of the back rank, so let's say rook here. Simply queen e3. Although c3 is coming. c3, e6, e2. Yeah, we can threaten mate, so we're actually in time here. And if you have to do something passive, then we can start grabbing stuff. Check, check. Okay, lost for Simon, unfortunately. Yeah. Good win yesterday by Simon, but not able to replicate that today. Pragnananda still the same material balance, but now he has pass pawn, which he didn't have before. No, he didn't. So how did he get the pass pawn? For some reason, I mean, black could go bishop c8, but he wanted activity. But then we get the pawn. I mean, black didn't lose material. He got the pawn on e4, but this is an important trump for white for sure. So, like I said earlier, a lot of work, but looks good for Praga. And it seems to me Adiban is getting nowhere at all here against Harry Grief. So this will probably be a draw. Cornet and Hilmifreyr, that was actually an interesting one. Chess Patcher, I'm reading the chat both on YouTube and on Twitch. Both on YouTube and on Twitch. But nice to see you. JT in the house. A lot of English players here. Maybe you should come next year. You and Kevin, you should come. I mean, white shouldn't win this one because we have the pawns on the same wing. So I think I would prefer black here actually, with the minor pieces, with the rook and the minor piece. Because if we trade everything off, let's say okay, rook here, it's obviously pinned, and I can, you know, even get fancy. Oh, okay, I forgot the bishop is hanging. Sorry. Okay, first we need to take care of the bishop. Let's just say something like this. And black does nothing. Okay, let's just do this or something. And we'll try to keep stuff on and trade. I mean, black is never ever losing this. Like rook here. I mean, rook wherever basically. How does white ever make progress here? He doesn't. So if you were in some kind of must-win situation, you would prefer to have black here. But it's probably just a draw. Okay. Okay, but okay. David Cummings beat Wigner. So that ends the Grandmaster Norm aspirations. Oh, he went back to this one, classical Dutch. He was analyzing the Leningrad the other day, so perhaps he should have gone for that one. So it's down a pawn here. Trying to get something going. But he shouldn't underestimate David Cummings. He's an IM. And he's just keeping control here. Up a pawn. Now he's able to push. And I guess we can't take on a4 because of b6. Take this one and b6. So now it's full control for white. And Wigner had enough in this one, unfortunately. Yeah, thank you, man. Things are okay. Reasonably good. Let's see, interesting result. Brandon Clark finished the game as expected, probably bishop g3. Yeah, bishop g3, queen g5. And resigned on the spot because he's going to take. Yeah. Kasakoli won as expected. My friend Gautipall, he lost his game. Unfortunately, against Robert Baskin, 23-93. 21. Let's see how Anna is getting on. Might already be a draw. Wait, how did she lose material? Okay, so this happened. F5, bishop f3. The most natural square for the bishop. Takes rook c8. Rook c1, bring the king. She played rook c7, which feels like a waste of time, because if the pawn goes here, it's simply too weak, I think. Although, I understand being worried about it. Okay, let's say here, rook c5. Okay, we have this tempo. We have to avoid bishop here. Yeah, there's simply no way to avoid, like, you have to protect the pawn, but then I just go back. So it's kind of a fortress, and then I'm threatening just to come here and win this. But I understand it being hard to see. Okay, so rook c7 probably loses important time here. And now, because the pawn is protected as opposed to on c7 when it was not, we can free the rook. And I'll give this check and come back on b7, and this is where Thruster won the exchange and the game. And a nice tactic here to win the pawns, because if Anna takes the rook, pawn is going to queen. So the experience came on top in this one. Oh, Kevin thinks David Cummings actually played for England. Yeah, so he should win this. Yeah, it looks very tough for Simon. Yeah, it's just game over, actually, isn't it? It's just game over. Unfortunately, tough pairings for Simon. He got 2 blacks in a row against 2600s. David Cummings played for Wales, but played in the British Championships. Julian Hudson, he doesn't play much these days, but he was very strong. Very strong. Okay, so we can book a loss here for Simon, I think. Mats Andersen. I think we can book a win here. White is not going to be able to contain this pawn and hold the 4 against 3 on the king side. So good win for Mats, who kind of survived the scare. in this game against Johan, where he could have made a bishop. Very interesting game. Yeah, we love Samus chess, but obviously, I mean, 1 against 2 against two 2600 grandmasters with black is just good. But it would have been nice to see him follow up a good result from yesterday. Okay, white has to play knight b3 to try and keep some kind of blockade, but it's just not going to be enough. So Mats will win on board 1. Board 2, Gukesh, Stingerson was drawn. Jóhann Hjartarson moves into contention with a win against Hans Niemann. Kannski aðeins ekki skella. So Praga will try to win here, and I think he will succeed. This pawn can't be pushed almost all the way. The queen is blockading here. The bishop. And everything's under control. You know, f3 at some stage. Giving the king just be solid. So Praga should win. Max is winning, moving into contention as well. Björnsson and Fear drew very early, but Atipan unable to make progress, and now it looks like a dead draw here against Harry Grieve. There's no way to create enough threats to win either pawn. And Julian Song has won against Abhijit Gupta, so that probably eliminates any chances of Gupta becoming a 3-time champion here. Already a 2-time champion, as well as Jóhann Hjartarson, which was one of the questions on the Reykjavik Open pub quiz. But Johan, will he get the 3rd one? Who knows? He's certainly in contention. So Cornet and Hilmir was the one I was perhaps most interested in. Yeah, it looks like chess 24 is using a delay, but the others aren't. Like Lead Chess and Chess.com. Lead Chess had a delay, but since Chess.com wasn't using it, it's probably not important. Let's see if Mase made some progress. Probably not. I mean, white looks very solid here. We don't want to trade the knight for the bishop, because then I don't think we can win. So after something like Queen G4, maybe it's hard to make a progress. We'd like to trade maybe this one for this one. I think both sides would like to end up with a knight against the bishop here, but maybe hard to make it happen. Yeah, Anna has lost, unfortunately. She had perhaps, kind of a fortress draw there, but the experience of Thruster was too much this time around. Benedict Bream and Julian. Julian went e5. Why did... okay, so he brought the king, bishop g6, king e3, e5. Okay. We should be able to win this pawn though. King d2, king g5, king c3. Let's say king f5. We probably bring the king. We have to go on a dark square to avoid this check, obviously. So we're a little bit stuck because of the bishop. Let's say something like this. And we're here. Let's say we temporize. And king d6. You know, whenever you have too many pawns, when you're too passive, like e4, it's generally too passive. And from here we're able to play around, bring the king here, rook f4, bring the king. Maybe drive the black king to a bad square. I think white should be able to win this. It's going to be a lot of work, but should be able to and deserves it. Yeah, relegation. Is Everton playing today, I guess? Now West Ham had a game against Brentford, I think. And then there's a big game today. There's a big game. Liverpool against Man City, right? So that will be interesting. But good luck to your guys in blue, Kevin. Stefan Bream against Eric Rosen. Stefan still having fun with the pieces. Should win this. Although why is he allowing pass pawns here? What happens if I take? I mean, does white have some kind of almost like a mating attack? Because we're going to give this check and then you have to avoid this. So let's say we move the queen somewhere. Let's go queen, maybe d2. Okay, let's say we try to set up for some kind of mate here. Okay, I'll push my pawns to do something. Looks very mate-ish. Where's the mate? Oh, I have a back rank mate, right? I'm covering all of the squares, so here. Yeah, it looked mate-y, let's just say that. So maybe if he gives up the pawn, he has to go for the mate. So still a very interesting game. This is board 29. So Eric hasn't played, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Eric Rosen. So I'm interested in 26-29. The brothers, the Bream brothers, both trying to win here. And they should be able to. Quick look at Aron Thomar against Bragi. Bragi is winning. At the exchange, safe king. Okay, let's go back to board 1. Yeah, similar situation. White is trying to hold on and black is trying to make progress. F5 takes. We can always go. He maybe try to exhaust his chances on the queen side, but then we can eventually go back here. Maybe play F5, trade stuff, go F5 again, get a pass pawn, another pass pawn. This must be a win. Yeah, it's a huge game. Huge game for Liverpool indeed. Okay, if this is a fortress, like, I would be super surprised. But white is holding on for now, or trying to, but I don't think he will. Praga wants to push his pawn. Okay, black still, he's defending stuff. 20. Okay. He's still defending stuff, so who knows? We can't play a6 just yet, so probably we need to. Doretsky always talked about the principle of two weaknesses, so perhaps we need to create another weakness on the king side. So start pushing stuff. Maybe bring the king and start pushing the pawns to make something happen on the king side as well. And maybe be a little bit careful because maybe black is threatening to go here and here, and then just win the a-pawn, which we can't allow to happen. So perhaps more care needed than I thought. Have we... what time is it? It's about, yeah. We have reached the time control phase a while ago. Cornet and Hilmir still playing. Still no apparent progress from either side. Have a feeling though that Hilmir is, eyeing some progress at some stage. Maybe even pushing the king further, pushing stuff. But still nothing happening. And still nothing going for Ratiban here. Should be a dead draw. Yeah, actually even Eric Rosen's game might be the most interesting one at the moment. He has plenty of time now, 23 minutes for white, 26 for Eric. Gonna take a quick 2-minute break and see if we can fix some stuff as well while we're at it.
The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on Earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on Earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on Earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered.
Okay. We're back. So still no move here. Yeah, I was just walking in the playing hall and Eric is thinking here. Important placement of the knight, by the way, because otherwise there will be a perpetual here on g3 and e1. Benedict and Julian Martin still playing here. I don't think. Not sure what the rook is doing on b8. What they need to go to f8. Okay, he's on f8. Or he's just trying to get some kind of tempo. But I guess king d6 now is good. King d6, trying to win the pawn. And if he goes like king here, then we can probably go rook f8 just to cover everything. And must be some kind of zugzwang, maybe rook f6 now. Well, that allows bishop f5. Or maybe even just bring the king. Trying to come here with tempo and now come here. And black is probably never getting counterplay because we can cover this easily. So again, should be a promising endgame for Benedict. Let's check back into the first board, where the endgame is progressing very, very, very slowly. At some stage we need to do something with this king. So I guess at some stage we can, force this pawn to come to a light square. Then we'll bring the king over. Yeah, planning with king e6 and then going f5 twice. It just has to be the way to make progress here. Let's just say, let's just make any move here. Let's just say white is just waiting. Here. Something like this. White waits. We'll take. White waits. That's us to move in, so f5. White waits. Yeah, still we need to make progress with the king, but I don't see how white is stopping us. Okay, let's make a waiting move. We'll come in. Now we're threatening to come here, and if the king tries to block us, then we go king f5. And then we can start pushing this pawn. So something like this. It will take a while, but I think Matt should win this rather easily. So after rook a8 here, Braga played queen a3. Nice tactics, because now if you play rook a6 to win the pawn, the rook is hanging. Queen will go here, check, and hangs. So important tactic, so that's why I couldn't do that, and now we can push the pawn. So that makes a huge difference. So now the pawn gets to a7. It would be very hard to deal with. Simon already lost. We saw, kind of, more or less, it was the final position even. Atiban making no progress and did not look happy in the playing hall. Yeah. Hjörvar beat Justin Sarkar, looked very promising. Still no progress here. It's funny, the coordination, all the black pieces except for one pawn are on dark squares. You kind of have this triangle formation here with the pieces, everything defending each other. So I'm not sure how anybody can try anything here. I mean, if we start getting too active, then I will start worrying about the king. Like Jack, and bring some pieces in. So dynamically balanced still. Meanwhile, the other French guy. Well, we have a bunch of French guys. Marseille is trying to play for a win here, but lacking entry squares. This knight on d3 is very annoying for black. Covering f2. And for now, white looks solid enough here. Maybe this is just another draw. Who's the front runner for winning the tournament? At this stage, it's hard to say. I mean, most of the top seeds, like Italin Puya, he took a bye, which will definitely hurt his tie breaks. Nima lost today. Gukesh drew. It's hard to say actually. It's a wide open tournament. We have 3 rounds to go, so Gukesh will probably get 3 blacks. I don't know, maybe I'd put my money on Praga at the moment, Pragnaland. Some young guy, Pragnaland, Gukesh, maybe even Max. Some of those guys. I mean, Mats Andersen is strong, but he also struggled against Johan. So I think sort of think he's not going to see it through. But then again, he gets a white tomorrow and probably 2 more whites. So maybe Mats Andersen is a good outside bet. But I'm going to go with the young guys, Gukesh or Pragnananda at this stage. I think Jarmula, he's been playing well, but you know, he met his match today, and I don't think the matchups will get easier from here on out. So his run might be over, and he has black tomorrow, so that will be difficult. Well, not tomorrow, in the later round today. So we have another round today. Okay, let's go back to the brothers. Stefan Bream. So what happened here? After queen he won, knight f5, he took on b4, and he didn't go for the mating attack with rook c7, he took the pawn on g5. Which is probably sensible as well. But I would be worried about the pawns starting to run. But black also needs to be careful, because we can still probably go for some kind of mating attack. And like we saw earlier, it doesn't take a whole lot of moves to get mated here. For instance, bishop f6. You have to be careful. Maybe I'm hanging stuff here with both pieces, so queen b3 is a good move. Well, let's say I played a move like this, and bishop f6 probably, maybe even knight h6 immediately. King f8, bishop f6, and we cover everything. And we threaten a back rank. So curious to see what will happen after bishop takes d5. Definitely a very, very difficult situation for for Erik Rosen. I'm being asked about the results of the Icelandic players on board 2. Gukesh and Steingrimsson, they drew a rook ending. Final position was this one, where white is going to take, and we're going to trade this pawns and have 3 against 3. And Johan Hjartarson won relatively quickly in 20-something moves against Hans Niemann. Johan missed a crossing tactic here with knight h5. And we just want to take this guy, and if it moves, we have rook here, winning the queen. So Johan was able to miss it, but still his position was crossing enough that a double question mark was not enough to turn the evaluation. And here bishop takes b4 hits the rook, and this can't be played because of this. So Hans actually resigned as bishop takes b4. So 27 moves. So Johan actually in good contention. Some other Icelanders, I mean, Hilmir is having a good game here against Cornet. He must be defending here. Okay, he might have to be careful at some stage, but looks solid enough. And Hjörvar beat Justin Sarkar, so a good round for the Icelandic players, except for Vignir, who lost against David Cummings and will not get a GM norm as he was hoping for. And it looks like the young guys Benedikt Briem and Stefan Briem are getting good results. What happened? Why did you lose the f-pawn, Benedikt? You didn't have to do that. That's bad. I think he's plundered this into a draw, because the only thing we can really do is hope he goes to the back rank, but even unfortunately he has this one, and we're not making progress. So that was clumsy. So why you have to be more patient here. Move like rook f8 for instance, and just be patient. Looks like he messed it up this time around. Yeah, it was unfortunate because he was winning as early as move, like as early as move 9, basically. Knight g5 on the 10th move, and he's basically winning. So that's a little bit yes, maybe not red carries, Hagnit Editor, probably not. Practical chess endgames. At the ban game, bishop sack. Well, it's not much of a sacrifice because it can't be taken. For those interested, yeah, on port 57, M. Carlson won. But here we can just, I mean, surely we can play bishop f6. Is that a blunder? I can't see it. I want to see one thing, because if we take this one off, we have 7 pieces, and then we can see the table base, and the table base says bishop f6 and bishop h6 are actually drawn. I'm guessing because we can chop this off and the pawn endgame is a draw. Something that players of this caliber should know. So this is so completely drawn that black can even lose the e-pawn and still draw. But it doesn't have to lose here, of course. But why don't they ever invite Eamon Hamilton? Eamon Hamilton has been here on a few occasions. I think he even got maybe his last IM norm here, GM norm. He got a GM norm here in Reykjavik. Played against Shirov, maybe he beat Shirov with white in the Taimanov. So that certainly isn't accurate. Okay, this one should be a draw. So board one, finally Mats is going for this king march, I'm guessing to e6 to push the pawn and create another pass pawn. And it's sort of something that endgame knowledge that especially people that play the Sicilian, where you get these doubled f pawns, should know about when you go for f5 and f5 again to create a passer. So nothing has changed really. Nothing has changed. Mats should win this easily. And is Praka making any progress? I mean, the pawn has gotten to a7, but still we need to make a threat, progress somehow. I'm just trying to think how we progress here actually. Maybe, like I talked about earlier, we have to start making progress on the king side. Bragi won against Aron Thormai, Hjörvar won against Justin Sarkar, and Sibel lost against Brandon Clark. I agree, very good win for Johan. So maybe we need to push the pawns, because we can't really attack this with our queen. We can't get the queen to b8 because both rooks are covering b8. So we probably need to make another weakness on the king side for this to be a win for white. So we need to push the pawns. This bishop, like I said, it deceptively holds everything together for black at the moment. So Mishra not giving up. Adibani and Grief is still completely dead drawn. And since Harry is offering this trait, he understands that this endgame is drawn. And the reason for that is, let's say we get a situation like, let's go here, 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 and here. If we want to progress with the king, we are giving stalemate. So there's simply no progress to be had. And it's important to, after h6, not to take it, because then white will win after king f7. But after h6 we play king g8 and there's still no progress. And now we're actually threatening to take it and come to g7. And if you play h7 now, it's definitely a stalemate. So important stalemate defense here. Stalemate, that's a funny rule. I've been collecting a bunch of stalemates and stalemate ideas, which I'm hopefully will make into some kind of work at some stage. Yeah, some people have debated, if stalemate should be a part of chess. I mean, it's been part of chess for such a long time that not having a stalemate would. And those are thoughts that would be interesting to sort of get together. I mean, what would not having stalemate mean to chess? For instance, this would be a white win. An h pawn against the king would be a win. Actually, any pawn against the king would be a win. So the opposition wouldn't matter when you have an extra pawn. There could be some unfair situations, for instance, when I would have, let's say, a white pawn here and the white king here, and the black king would stalemate the white king. I guess in that case black would win, because if there's no stalemate, then you're going to lose the king. So interesting. Maybe that's an interesting chess variant to play. No stalemate chess. Would change some things. Maybe that's something that the chess side can set up, just a simple no stalemate variant. I mean, people are playing no castling, like Kremliglov's no castling. So no stalemate could be interesting. Anywho, I think stalemate is, there's a lot of like really cool stalemates. And just yesterday, no, the day before that, no, yesterday, in the fourth round. So let's actually go back to Johan's game. Super interesting situation where Johan could have, and maybe should have, found a spectacular win. And people have been talking about this because it's such a rare occurrence. Okay, we need to find the moment where he goes e7. It's still a few more moves. So this is Johan against Mats Andersen. And Johan said he had been intending, his idea was to play queen f7. And he saw queen f7. And he thought it was winning. But then he saw this crazy idea. If he makes a queen, it's stalemate, either queen g2 or queen h1. So no stalemate chess, then you would be losing here, definitely. But black has this resource, and now it's stalemate. The stalemate, this adds to the beauty of chess. You can save yourself from a hopeless situation like this with this rule, the stalemate. And I think people love that. But it turns out the only winning move is to take here and make a bishop. And just, looking at the material, we're completely winning. But aside from that, we're just going to play bishop g6 and back rank mate you after that. And there's no defense. completely winning, safe king, nothing to be done. So the stalemate, can add a little extra wrinkle. And Johan was really upset when he found out, oh no, I had bishop promotion. Yeah, promoting to a bishop being the only winning move. That's not something you see every day. So Johan was understandably not happy about that, and well, people have been, I know on Twitter this position has been spread a lot. And perhaps this was an important moment in the tournament, because Mats survived this game. Very difficult. He was worse, or even lost for a huge chunk of that game. Managed to defend, and now he's on board 1, about to win with the black pieces, which means he gets the white pieces tomorrow. So he's definitely moving into contention here at the Reykjavik Open. So you can see these small little things, they add up, and all of a sudden, instead of going from an immortal victim of a bishop promotion, now he's in contention to win the tournament. So we're mainly keeping, okay, there are 5 games still left, 6, 7, and we looked at basically almost all of them. And it looks like after king f7, rook c6, knight h6, he got there with the tempo, and rook c7. It looks like Stefan is trying to move in for the kill here. Has to be slightly careful about this check, of course. So if you were to play bishop, like let's say a4, the tempting bishop f6, which would set up the mating net, because we cover all the flat squares more or less, would allow queen d6, although king d7 is a flat square. But this would blunder the game on the spot. You can also play right away, but then bishop f4, of course, keeps everything together. And meanwhile, maybe a quick look at Diana Mirza. She's Irish, but she's playing a Romanian guy, 2286. And I believe Diana Mirza is of Romanian descent. Her father is Romanian originally. So she should be able to communicate with her opponent, I guess, in his native language. But this looks lost for Diana. So what is Bendit doing? We thought it was a draw. I don't see how white makes any progress here. And Benedict can be and will be very upset that he blew this game. There's a small outside chance if black blunders something that we can maybe get around here and get this pawn, but I find it highly unlikely. And also Benedict has no time on the clock. So this will be a draw, unfortunately. Very clumsy by Benedict. He was completely winning in many spots. Okay, black has played g6. Unnecessary move, I think, because why weaken yourself when you don't have to? Just adds an extra weakness here, which could be used for a queen, maybe even a king later in the game. Doesn't change much. White still needs to probably push the pawns and bring the king to make something happen here. Thank you, Emil. Appreciate that. I think Adiban should still be just drawing. But of course you try till the end, but there's really nothing to try. And we covered that, this pawn endgame is already a draw, so Nothing to be done. This one we haven't looked at for a while. We keep getting these like weird, cool piece play. I went a bit astray there. I was gonna say we're getting these cool piece placements. Everything on dark squares and everything covered. Actually, this piece placement might be unique in chess history, to be honest. I find it fun sometimes to look at, weird piece placements and just look in the database and see if stuff like this has happened before. So this could be something to look out for, to see how many games I would find with rooks on the 6th and the knights covering, everything in a little box like this. But okay, knight d5, queen e8. Is white making some progress? I mean, okay, the queen is... That's a drunk rook. The queen is moving in. That's a drunk mouse. What's going on? So, he has the g file. The queen is here moving in. Maybe some checks, winning a pawn. Bishop is lurking. Looks better with white than before, definitely. And the king is completely safe. So, it's definitely white who's trying to make things happen now. King e6. And he can take the pawn now. I mean, it's not catastrophic to lose this pawn. It's very unlikely that white will be able to use this pass pawn, but still it's something. So maybe a small win there for Cornet, but will he be able to convert? Still, we will probably get some very long games here. And nothing really happening in Masay's game. 0.0 across the board. White is very solid, covering everything. Don't see how black can break through here. So probably this will be a draw. Masay will try. I mean, how to say it? Like optically or technically, black should be the one pressing, because his bishop can, create more scope. Might be able to win this pawn. Might be able to get the knight in. He's not able to at the moment, but white is definitely defending. The knight is just here doing nothing. It might be a pawn break in the future, but all of these are unlikely to happen right now. But we're just talking about, possible stuff. Yeah, Masay won a nice endgame yesterday. I thought for a while it was drawn because it looked like the pawns were sort of blocking the king from entering in the endgame, but in the end he managed to break through. Okay, let's move on again to Praga. Again, I don't like what black is doing. He is creating dark square weaknesses, which I don't think he needed to do. I think it might have been more useful to just keep the pawns here, control dark squares. Goes better with a light square bishop. Because now, I mean, still far away, but you're introducing chances of some kind of penetration. And okay, an extreme case, but let's say I'm just gonna make some moves to get the pieces there. It's unlikely to happen, but let's just, for argument's sake, say that black does nothing. Let's say he allows us to do this and maybe this. Okay, you could target this pawn, but I just want to show you that, if we're allowed to come here, then all of a sudden, not too unsimilar to short against Timman, where short went for king h6. The threat of queen takes g6 is very strong, so a move like here we can actually start taking stuff, and rook takes f7 is also on the cards. Actually takes, and now we can finish the short circuit, so to say. So I'm not sure making dark square weaknesses like this is something that black should have done. So if he keeps it like this, maybe he is worried about white advancing the pawns, and he wants to, by playing g6 and h5, he wants to make it more difficult for white to advance the pawns. And maybe he figured this out and thought, okay, I'll just keep my rook here. I'm threatening h4 maybe now. Maybe, I'm not sure it's good. But maybe he thought he can keep the king in check and prevent white from getting this formation. Of course, I lost a lot of tempos for black. He could also go for this pawn while we did this and other things, but just making general considerations, especially based on the placement of the pawns and the weaknesses that it has made. Mats is trying to play a5, but white is not allowing him at the moment. Maybe you can just play it now and then king f6 to pick it up if he takes. Should still be very good. So h4 is the last move here by Braga. So not allowing black to play h4, and this pawn can't be taken obviously. We could either get the queen over here, or maybe it's just more easier to play the rook and then rook b8. But still, black will just try to hold on. So still a number of things need to happen for us to get a decisive result. To just briefly check my messages. Okay. Early morning round. And I was up late last night because the blitz didn't finish till around 11:30 or 40. We couldn't start the blitz till 9 o'clock because the tournament, the main tournament, didn't finish till about that time, and it took about 15-20 minutes to get everybody registered. And then it's 9 rounds of blitz, but it ran pretty smoothly after everything was set up. The winner of the blitz, by the way, we didn't have a lot of GMs. Hans wanted to play, but then he decided, okay, I need some sleep, so he didn't play. So it was Das Soham who actually won, Vigni Vatnar second place, and Dagur Ragnarsson third place. Will the Lucas game end in a draw? No, I think Mats Andersen will win. He has now played f5. White always needs to worry about this pass pawn, so one of his pieces will be tied up here. And now we are going to make another pass pawn, because if we just wait, let's say something like this. We take, and then we play f5 again at some stage. Maybe we need to make some preparatory moves. Maybe king f6 first. And again, if we just wait, king g6 and then f5. We get another pass pawn. We also introduce this idea. And white will simply not be able to keep up with two pass pawns and defend the h pawn. So I think this should be, I don't want to say an easy win, but relatively clear cut. I mean, both guys know the plan, basically, more or less, but it's just a matter of executing the plan. Yeah, so Gukash will be number one. Well, I want to say when Jarmula loses. Let's just briefly check the standings. Well, I can actually check them as they are right now. As they are right now, it's Max Varmerdam and Johan Hjartarson with 5 points. Gukash, hasn't it been updated? The Gukash draw, surely it has. So before this round, we had a lot of people with 4 points. Hans, Itan and Puya who took a bye, Gukesh, Héðinn. So yeah, Praga most likely, Max and Johan, along with Mats, have moved to 5 points. So we have a big pack again at the top. And yeah, and for the last rounds, yeah, we should have a scene where we can check out the standings. Definitely. Yeah, and Hans lost, so he's most likely out of contention. Let's go back to Eric Rosen. His position is frozen. Don't we just have a relatively easy win with Rook? Well, maybe not, maybe. I'm simplifying it a bit too much. You have to be careful also about like maybe sacrificing at some stage. I don't think that it works right now, but it could be an idea at some stage. But my idea was, okay, that sounds like this, knight d6. And I thought we had a nice win here with bishop g5, but that's not true. We can win the queen, but black has pawns, so we can't do this. If there are no pawns, this will be a winning tactic. But unfortunately there are pawns, so it is not. But definitely something to keep an eye on. b4, rook b7. So it looks like bishop d6 was played here. Which has ideas of playing rook to e7. I'm not sure this was the best course of action. And Eric has played queen e6. And we're down to 5 minutes each here, so now time trouble can become a factor. Again, we can win the queen, but at too much of a cost. The knight is going to have a tough time battling these two pawns. So I'm wondering, will we have another botched win by one of the Bream brothers? Benedict Bream already botched his game and is now facing a draw. Massey probably still making no progress. Still all zeros across the board. Is Cornet making progress against Hilmir? Are we back to this? What happened? Didn't we have queen f8 earlier? Did we go back? I thought we had another position. Okay. This is weird. I thought we had a different position a few moments ago. Anyway, moving on. Praga and Mishra. Wait, what? Wait, what? Eric is winning now? How? What the heck? What is he doing? Seriously? What the heck? What is he? And then he's just going to play. This is something guys should just know. You can play b2 here. take first, and then b2. And you can't take it. You guys should know this pattern, that if you attack the knight like this, it's winning. You can play knight e3, but the king is very, very close here. h4 here, h5 here. You have to go knight b1, and then a3. And we're actually not even in time to queen, so black just wins. That's pretty poor stuff. Rook e7 happened. That's pretty amazing. I mean, just by looking at it, I mean, I didn't even calculate. It's just, and I said it earlier. Okay, you can't play rook e7 because the knight is not going to be able to deal with the pawns. It's just a feeling, and it was the correct feeling. And this is something people should. I mean, I'm kind of upset with the brothers right now. So back to Praka's game. After h4, he took on h4. I thought rook b7 was the simplest way here. Although there is c5. Let's see, rook b7, c5, rook b8, and are we holding on here? Well, there's a mate threat though. Again, one of the reasons why you shouldn't have made these weaknesses with g6 and h5, which we talked about earlier. Maybe something like this is incoming takes and queen there. Okay, maybe something similar happened in the game. So rook takes h4, queen a6, rook b4, rook c8, rook takes, and c5. Praka took, and I guess rook a4, and we're going to get this endgame. Queen and 2 pawns against rook and 3. So the question is this a fortress? And we know who doesn't believe in fortresses. It's Magnus Carlsen. So I know we have a training group here in Iceland where some young players have lessons, and in one of them they were looking at this endgame with queen and 1 pawn. So let's say something like this happens. This should be a draw, I believe. And the only way for this not to be a draw would be if we could somehow get the king out. If the king was on e7 and we could somehow sneak in here. But okay, now we have so few pieces that we can actually look at the table base, and rook a6 is a draw indeed. Let's go back to when I took on g4. So rook e7 is draw. Actually, the move I played king g7. Okay, obviously I lose the rook. I lost the rook to a jack here. Made a tactical blunder, but I was just trying to show the general type of position. So rook a6 is a draw. And this fortress will be just, I think, too difficult to break. We can just play here and move the king around. And the only way to somehow win would be to be able to take and get the king in, but that's just not going to be possible. And this is still a draw. Because of which move? Very important pawn to e5, getting the opposition. So maybe Mishra is up to something and he might be able to draw this. So queen takes c5 is the position. Just going to go over to Mats, who should be winning, so we can update the board again in Praga. Wait, he didn't take what? He didn't take the bishop? What? Wow, super confused. Is he gonna bring the king now? Oh, okay, it doesn't really change much. We could play rook a5 here, and we actually win the pawn, either by taking or by virtue of the pawn queening and becoming a queen. When you queen a pawn, you lose the pawn. You get a queen, but you lose the pawn. Don't forget that. And now we get the same fortress, which I think is a fortress. I mean, the only way to make progress is to play g4 at some stage, I believe. So I think this should be a fortress. So, okay, we'll get back to this one. Things are happening now. This is fun. This is fun. So Prima against Rosen. This has happened, a4. And the only way for white now is to try to create counterplay. Play g4. You can play knight a3, but okay, doesn't really change much. Is Matthew Cornet making progress as well? We'll check that out. A lot of things are happening. I mean, g4 looks like the only move here. They're down to basically a blitz time control, almost at this stage. Halftime, Brentford 0, West Ham 0. Brentford in good form, by the way. So I'm waiting for a move here. I just want to see if Eric plays b2, like immediately. Benedict Bream has drawn his game with Julian Martin, and his brother is still playing against Eric Rosen. Should be losing after being completely winning. So the brothers, we can say they lost 1.5 points today out of the expected value of their positions. Both were like plus, some states probably +6, both +5, 6. So that's a little bit upsetting. Okay, for some reason still not getting a move here. Surely, okay, he's gonna make a move. Okay, actually Mats Andersen has made so much progress that he has won the game. Okay, finally he got the king around, played f5, and white went on a king excursion here that it's not going to end well, because now we have this covered, and now the king can help the pawn push. So a good win for Mats Andersen. It was inevitable for a long time now that he would win this game, and finally it happened. Meanwhile, Praka and Mishra seemed destined to get rook against the queen, but he didn't go for it immediately. Now bringing the king quietly. Massey is making small progress, but is it enough? He's got an endgame, good knight against the bad bishop, but can he find the penetration with his king? Needs to get the king into the game. I think for now the most excitement is in the Rosen game. We'll stick to that. Plays t3, b2. It's a very important b2 move. Knight a3. Takes first, king takes, and king d6, I presume. So this is likely to happen. h5 here. h6 takes, h7. Yeah, this takes here and here. And unfortunately for, well, I thought there was a simpler line here, but okay, this is probably the best that white can do, and still black needs to show some technique to win this, but I think Shouldn't be too difficult. Should not be too difficult. Okay, Praka brings the king. King is getting closer. And let's just actually follow Eric Rosen's game, because the move should come in quickly now. And I guess there's nothing really other than this line where they both get a queen, but Eric has this extra a-pawn. I haven't had time to look at the recaps, but I know he did a recap from his first round game. So seeing the recap from this one would be interesting. Maybe I'll even try to find time for that, if I possibly can. Let's see. I don't understand why they're moving slow, because h4 seems like the only plausible move. I mean, you could give this check on the pawn, but it's well known that. Let's say we go here. It's well known that not to allow knight a4 check, knight a4 and knight c3. That probably would have been a way for black to botch it up, right? Or would it? a3. No, it's still winning, even though we have this king before. Okay, so it probably doesn't matter even where we put the king. King c5 is more logical actually. But yeah, this a very important pattern. And you can often have an endgame where, let's say, you have a dark squared bishop and there's a white pawn here, and the bishop takes on b2, because when the knight takes back, you can't handle the pawn. You can't handle the pawn. You want the pawn? You can't handle the pawn. Okay, so what happened? Okay, I need to reset this. h4. Yeah, okay, he started to push the pawn. h4, king c5. h5. King b4. I guess h6 now. h6 has to be played. King takes h7. Here we have h6, and Eric is going to take h7. Eric is going to queen. Stefan is going to queen as well. And these are the kind of funny things in chess. If the king was on h2, we would have a check. And actually, let's go back. Hang on a minute. So after g3, he should have not taken on g3. This is very, very instructive actually. He should have gone king d6, because white doesn't really have anything else than to take on h4 or go g4, and in both cases it actually doesn't really matter. You're going to get the same situation, but with a huge difference. The king is on h2, so now we simply play queen b2 check, trade, and we queen first. And this race is not going to be fun for white, as you see. And we're in time. So taking on g3 was actually I'm not going to say a huge blunder, but it prolonged the game a lot more than was necessary. You could also have, instead of g takes h4, yeah, king c5 here, sorry, king d6. Well, it could also play g4, but it doesn't make a difference because you can just do the same thing and check on a2. Again with a win. So h takes g3 was a bad move by Eric. But now we have this. And he did play queen b2, I believe. Okay, let's actually reset that. I can't remember if I made that move, but let's see. Yeah, he made the move queen b2. Which must be sufficient. And one thing that's working against white here is that once you start checking, I can actually maybe run from checks and grab the pawn at the same time. So this extra pawn can both block checks and just be a weapon for us to exchange and win the endgame. So Eric should win this one. So I think we're just about at the end for this round. We'll leave we'll see if Praka makes progress. Masse is trying to make some progress with a good knight against the bad bishop, but looks like white is under control here. For the moment, the bishop is dominating the knight, taking some important squares. Otherwise, we might enter like this. Although, what does it really do? King comes to d2. But white will definitely need to suffer, and it wouldn't surprise me if Masse is able to weave some magic here. This looks like a position where even if you get the knight to d4, how does that help us? Maybe it even doesn't. We can't at the moment because I think white can safely take and just get the opposition. King f4, king d2, diagonal opposition. King here, opposition. King here, and I don't see how we enter or make progress. So we can't trade the knights, the knight for the bishop. So we can't even get to d4. So good knight against bad bishop, but it seems we have some stuff missing for us to be able to win. He'll still try for a while. You know, there's also like knight back here and here, which actually doesn't do too much, but he will try stuff for a while because there's no risk of losing. Meanwhile, Eric trying to make progress here with his extra pawn. Should win this, and let's go to Praka. So maybe an interesting decision to keep the pawn on a7, keep the black pieces occupied, not allow him to set up the fortress. And now he's dreaming of bringing the king and making some kind of mating, getting some kind of mating attack. Yeah, queen c7 looks good here. Because we're hitting the bishop, so probably we'd have to play rook b5. Here we have some options. One of them being maybe to make a queen here. Take this. Then we're going to win the bishop with jack. And maybe this is a different story. Maybe this is not a fortress. Unfortunately, it's 8 pieces, so we can't find out. But it must be very close. So these are actually, well, there are a few more games. Rudolf Tirsiman, aka Jaffa Cakes on Lichess. We played a bunch of times. He's playing against candidate master Thomas Villiers. So this looks like a good result for Rudolf. But he's not going to be able to win this one. Because even if he gets the knight to f7... Wait, hang on a minute though. No, oh, sorry, we just play king f6. So check. Waiting move, check, king here. And we're fine. So it should be a draw. Draw! Johan Ragnarsson is trying to defend a rook endgame. No wait, what? Wasn't he down a pawn earlier? He's up a pawn? How? The guy is 2180. How does he go from this? Up a pawn? To this? Like how? Yeah, if you needed proof that the endgame is where strong players separate themselves from weaker players, you got your daily dosage of that right here. It's actually quite remarkable. Yeah. Okay, so Johan should win. That's a good win for him. So these are the 5 games left. Praga, Maze, Rosen, and then the 2 we just looked at, Rudolf and Johan Ragnarsson. So I guess, yeah, quick look at Rosen. I mean, he should win this more or less without problems. We're gonna say Maze draws. And Praga wins. Yeah, now we have this endgame. He did play Queen C7 and go for this line we just looked at. And this one looks like a win. The other one was maybe a fortress, but this is definitely looks more winning. Wait, is this actually a Suksang immediately? Okay, let's go back. He played Queen H8, Queen D8. How can check Rook B5? I thought it was close to a Suksang because Rook G5 you get made it in 1. And the king doesn't really have a square, and if the king has to move, we take the pawn. Okay, okay, but okay. D8. Okay, but he played Queen H8, king here, and king E3. One moment, can we go here and win this pawn? Because if we go here, I wanted to give this check, rook here, and I was wondering if we had a transition already. No, probably not. Takes, king f4, king g6, king here. No, we can't, okay. Almost, but not quite. Almost. Maze, nothing. Rosen, something. Still needs to find some moves. Maybe queen d2 is the move here. I'm wondering, like, stuff like this. No, we can check here. Okay, let's be careful. Let's be careful. Still a way to mess this up. Damn it, Brentford goal. Don't like it. So I guess we'll keep an eye for a little bit on these endgames. Okay, he's going on a king excursion, so probably he's gonna go here and just try to pick up the pawn. And if you go and if you have to go g5 with black, then the king can penetrate, then probably we can sacrifice at some stage. Queen for a rook and a pawn. Long games today. We're 5 hours into the round. People are saying good winning chance. Yeah, definitely good winning chance. Probably it's objectively winning. Rook f4. Since he played king f2, he must be going for. Well, hang on. Yeah. He must be going for king g1. So yeah, he plays it immediately. Once you settle on a plan in an endgame like this, usually you can play fast once you know the plan. But this game. It's probably good experience for Mishra, both to have to and try to defend such an endgame. No, I don't know if it's relevant still, but most likely he'll go for this, king h2. Masse, progress? Nope. Because there isn't none. Or isn't any. And finally, Eric Rosen is sailing it home, it seems. Maybe g3 was possible for Praga, maybe. But we don't want to trade too many pawns. Maybe it was possible. I think the rule of thumb is not to trade the pawns. The problem with Queen F2 check, which you just played, is that King C3, you don't really have a good check. King C3, Queen E1, King B3. So you should have maybe checked on the G file, so you can at least, give some diagonal checks over here. So now his queen has less flexibility. So I think on Queen E1, King B3, we're gonna get in A2. So that should be taking care of business. Taking care of business. Okay, so we'll briefly come back to this one because it should be over. Masay not making progress against Steven Dishman. It looks like we have Suksang right now, and the pawn is going to drop, right? Because Rook F5, and we just make a king move, right? King F2 or H2. Sure, and King F4 you can't really play because you're getting mated. Rook E5, Queen G4. Boom shakalaka. So I think this is a Suksang, and he might just resign, and he does. He will. So he played what? He did play Rook F5, King F2. Yeah, this is still mate in 1. It's the other way, Rook F5 and Queen D4, which is even nicer. So finally Prakka sails it through, so he moves into contention along with Johan Mats Andersen and Max Warmerdam. Those are our 4 top dogs right now. And I think we'll call Masay, we'll call it as a draw. Or is he penetrating now? King E2, King T1? We'll wait a little bit, because I love these type of endgames. And this will be something. I mean, White might just take a bye in the next round after this if he loses. Are there more twists in the Ragnarsson game? Oh, he should win this. So these are the 3 remaining games in the playing hall. And so what's going on? King C1, Queen E1. Hang on a minute. Now we play Queen B3. Queen B3. Okay, we have to go Jack. King B1, Queen E1, King C2, Queen E2, and then we walk away. Can't walk away. No. And this cluster here is actually in the way now for White. And we actually don't have a useful check. This just allows Queen D3. Let's say King A1, Queen A1 for argument's sake. Now the king comes back, and this is inevitable. King D1. This is actually slightly grotesque. But such endgames are just so difficult to defend at times. I think he had like the perfect setup. So where did he go wrong? Yeah, why did he allow the knight in? So he's trying to make progress with the knight, which was completely dominated earlier. Like here, he let him in on d3, which okay, he kind of had to. And didn't want to allow him on e4. Now it comes to f2. White is still fine. Probably bishop h5, bishop h7 might be a slight inaccuracy now, because you can't cover e2 anymore. Probably still fine. I can't figure out where he went wrong. Does he need to keep an eye on h5? Is that a trick? If you could play bishop h5 now, then maybe it's okay, because we're stopping penetration. Yeah, you had to keep an eye on, you had to play here or here earlier, because now you could play bishop here check, and we still keep the king out. But now the king is getting in. King d1, and then king c1. And now he can probably maneuver the knight, maybe even to yeah, he got onto the king, so now it's winning. And now he can go to b1, which is a huge difference. Let's say a move like this, knight b1, because now the king endgame is king and pawn endgame is winning, because you have to abandon the pawns already. Yummy, yummy. And then you'd have to move the king somewhere, and then I get to the buffet right here. Wow. So Masse grinds out the win here, and Eric Rosen should do the same. And yeah, we're actually going to call the round. I mean, all the top games are finished, and it's clear that Masse is going to win after an epic endgame, and Eric Rosen is going to win after an epic game. Very, very entertaining games in this round. And we have another round today, so I need to get some rest. We'll be back probably in like 3 hours. Around 3 hours we will come back. And yeah, things are getting exciting. 3 rounds left, and we have 4 players at the top, so it will be interesting. I hope to see you later today, and we'll call it a day for now. Well, not calling it a day, we're calling it a round, because we'll be back today. So see you later today. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.
The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature. Icelandic glacial. The purest tasting water on earth, born from untouched lands, naturally filtered through ancient lava rock. You are what you drink. Be a force of nature.